Hello everyone, how's it going? In this video, we're going to talk about Alibaba and Russia. Number one, we'll cover the Alibaba's Chinese side of business. Number two, we'll cover the Russian side of Alibaba's business. And number three, we'll cover some interesting aspects about Russian e-commerce businesses. So number one, this is the growth of Alibaba in basically across all their online shopping properties. And you can see it started out from 434 million people using Alibaba to buy their products, going up to all the way to 828 million very recently. And this data goes on until 2016 is because Alibaba went online, went public back then, and only then we have this data going on for them. But these are some interesting aspects that went out for China, for Alibaba, the tailwinds that basically Alibaba had in China. China has the largest number of online shoppers in the world, and this is due to less developed physical stores and cheap logistics services. E-commerce market is growing rapidly in third and lower tier cities in recent years. Now, it's one interesting thing about China is about 90% of the population in China lives in these third and lower tier cities. And these cities doesn't have good physical stores, and the logistics services in China are very cheap. This fueled the growth for Alibaba. And instead of going to a physical store, people would simply buy on Alibaba and it would be delivered to their home. And that's why Alibaba grew very nicely with China. And it still has a huge room to grow. And this is why. You see the internet users in China, China has a population of about 1.4 billion. And right now, the internet users, active users, are not even a billion users. So it has still a room growth just in China itself. And China, again, has some interesting aspect for themselves. Even before the computer could reach everyone in China, once the computer was invented, and by the time the computer could reach anyone, before that, the mobile phone was introduced, and the smartphones started penetrating the Chinese population even faster than a computer. And that's fueling this internet growth in China. Now, let's come into the Russian aspect. Russian business is a different aspect altogether. And interesting thing, no Amazon in China, and Chinese Alibaba is just basically working with the e-commerce businesses that are present in Russia. And why a company like Amazon is not in Russia? Russia has a different mass market altogether. Just because of the size of the country, its logistics is very difficult. In order to get one product from one part of the country to another part, it is very difficult. So logistics services in Russia are very poor. And a company like Amazon, they usually start off with using the regular services like the FedEx, the UPS, the USPS here in the United States. But in Russia, they came out with a challenge, and this was basically a different beast for them. But Alibaba, on the other hand, they partnered with companies like Mail.ru. They also partnered with the national postal services out in China, in Russia. And that's how they are using their services to help deliver products on a faster basis. They were down from 45 days to 15 days, then to 10 days. They're now trying to get it done next day delivery in Russia. And they're doing it in a few parts of Russia, but they're trying to get that overall in the whole country. Now, the Russian e-commerce business, this is an interesting play. Now, there are other e-commerce businesses in Russia already. And this is the chart showing that there are other e-commerce businesses. The number one, the biggest player in Russia is Wildberries. And this is the most interesting of all. We'll go over that shortly. Then you have Alibaba, AliExpress, you have Ozon, and then Yandex. We'll cover all these things. But Russia has an interesting play. As of now, in 2020, in this particular age, the online purchases will only account for 10% of Russian retail sales. So all the retail sales that go on, Russian e-commerce only account for 10%. And this is also was high for them. It was 6% in 2019. And this growth happened, this sudden jump happened because of the COVID, because when they had to close all these stores, people were left with no option but to go into the retail, go into these online places and buy from there. Now, this happens because of this interesting phenomena, which was pointed out by Charlie Munger and reported in this Nomad Partnership Letters by Nick Sleep. This was given by Monish Pabrai. And he explained, Charlie Munger basically gave the example how a human mind is like a human egg. It's all about cognitive ease. We want to continue doing what we already know. We want to keep our incumbent habits. And the reason for that, and they explain how it happens. They went into this company, a market research company, and they found out that the car advertising, if you're buying a car, even before you could read the car advertising, the decision to purchase the car was already made. They didn't even look into the car advertising. They had already made that decision in mind. And people would then read the advertising just so they could convince other people, their family members, why they bought the car. Oh no, it has 12 airbags, it emits 170 grams of carbon per mile, all that good stuff. So they explain it after. So it's all because of that incumbent human habits. And this is very interesting. And this is basically, he talks about why Amazon still has a huge growth for them, and why it's not growing as fast as we could normally think. And the example is because of this, because all of these psychological biases, we are all creatures of habit, and most of us don't want to give up our comfort blankets. It therefore takes time for a new regime to be adopted. And for instance, people would start buying books instead of buying at a local store. They would first buy books because books, they would think, okay, there's no harm in buying books online. It's much safer. They would start with buying books. Then they would find some exciting equipment, maybe some toys, maybe some bikes, so some easier aspects. And then they would start into groceries. And then you would go into clothes and other aspects. And this happens only after the building of trust is done, then social proof has happened. And that's how you slowly grow into this. But this rate happens because it's difficult to break our incumbent habits. And that's what's happening in Russia, where you can see even now, it only has about 10% of growth in Russia. So now going into the other e-commerce businesses that are happening in Russia, this is Wildberries, and this is one of the interesting businesses out there. It is an e-commerce giant, the biggest giant in Russia, and it's owned by a lady called Tatiana. Interestingly, she founded Wildberries on her own, and she owns Wildberries 100%. There are no investors. There's no one backing her. She's fully invested. She owns Wildberries to the core. It's not a public company. You wouldn't find it on the public market. And she runs it by itself. She founded back in 2004 when she was 28 years old, and she was on a maternity leave. And she wanted the money. She wanted to buy things online. And back then, it was very difficult to deliver products. The National Postal Service out in Russia wouldn't deliver packages. So she would deliver packages to their homes and go and deliver out there. That's how she started. And now it's a $1 billion company and the biggest giant in Alibaba. And this is the Russian side of Alibaba. And this is the Russian Alibaba, where they're trying to produce these products and provide it out to them, right? And maybe in the next day delivery. This is another company called Ozon. This company recently came into the market in the United States. They recently came out with an IPO back in January of 2021. And they did that to fuel their e-commerce business. Then you have this other company. This is run by a company called Yandex. Yandex is also a public company, and it trades here in the United States. Yandex runs the biggest search engine in Russia. So it's the Google of Russia. And they also have self-driving services. They have their own self-driving projects that are going on here in the Los Angeles. And it's a big company. Right now, just after Wildberries, you have Alibaba, and you have Ozon, which has the next market share, and Yandex, who recently started, they have the smallest market share, but I think this will be one of the biggest players out there. They recently sold about 1.5 billion shares for themselves to fuel just their e-commerce business to grow out there. So they are competing very highly, and it is a market that's still, it's very, very ripe, and it has a lot of potential to capture the market out here. So I found these interesting. Wanted to share with you. With that, take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.